supernatural is something that isn't supposed to happen, but it does happen.
And no nation which expects to be the leader of other nations can expect to stay behind in this race for space.
What does it take to convince you that the dead do not always rest in peace?
Oh my God, they're back. We're back in the realm. Yes. No, we have been granted pass into the outer realms with Joey and Tonya. Welcome back to the show, you two.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Coming on your show.
Yeah. No, go ahead. Sorry. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I know I say it every time, but I love your opening so much.
Well, thank you. Thank you. That was, I haven't talked him up for a while. My brother was the one that wrote that score. And that was just when he did that. For anybody that doesn't know that story, he just did it, just sat down with his guitar pedals, cranked that out real quick, and he just sent it to us. He's like, "What do you think?" I sent it over to Austin. He's like, "That sounds great." I gave it, let Chris listen to it. He goes, I like it. And we went with it. And the only thing that it still bothers me, and I'm still trying to figure it out, is I need to find a moving image of Godzilla, because that scene is when he's the guy in the Godzilla suit. I apologize, I think of his name's failing me right now, but that's the one where he's just tearing through the wires, and that's what I was wanting. So that's but man, we are talking Mothman tonight.
All right,
something I hear might be a certain passionate subject for you two, maybe.
Definitely is. I came with my gear. My Mothman search team gear. Hi to Craig, by the way. Craig Sadaka. Nice to see you, Craig. But yeah, let's talk Mothman, and hopefully in a way, Mothman's kind of been talked to death. So we're going to try to create a tapestry. There was so much more going on within Mothman at the time, 66, 67.
Yeah, and one of the things I really wanted to get you to, because, I think we'll touch on a little bit too, again, is your guys' experience that you had. Because I had asked you during your show, I'd said, that seems to me like it was almost like you guys had a Mothman-like, experience because of what you saw, jump across. I mean, it could have been like the Spring Hill Jack. I mean, it could have been, there's a lot of things that, it could have been, but it's just the way you guys described it was kind of just the way it was really cool. And this is one of those, I put in the promo, I said, I would say besides Bigfoot and probably like the gray alien, this has got to be one of the cryptids that I think is probably one of the higher up there as a cult following.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Yeah, because this is one where it's not a wide known one. This isn't something like people in Oregon are seeing the Mothman and people in Mexico are seeing the Mothman. This is a localized one, like the Flatwoods Monster. You have these ones. It's localized, but it has such an iconic, you'd think just off the name, it's like, what kind of ridiculous name is the Mothman? I mean, you're picturing, you see the cartoon one with these little feelers, and these big eyes, just this little thing going, like, that doesn't seem very scary. You're just like, go.
And they even have a festival in their town for it.
They do. And it saved the town. The town is booming because of that festival. What is it, 15, 16 years now?
Yeah.
And we've been to about half of them.
Yeah. And really, it's
yeah. Yeah, it's wild. I wrote a play about the town a number of years ago that's now kind of being folded into my fiction novels. But to have a town where you have one bar and like 20-something churches, very religious people on the Ohio River, very simple, God-fearing, and this winged, red-eyed thing comes to town for 2 years almost. And then the town, the Silver Bridge collapses is in it in 67. Then the town almost dies because you had that bridge that moved upriver like a half a mile or so or more, a couple miles upriver. And the town was practically dead. And then Mothman Prophecies movie came out and everyone's, what is this Mothman? And next thing you know, they have this festival. And now 15, 16 years later, the town is booming. There's not an off season. All the shops are filled.
Wow.
It's an amazing story.
Yeah, I was going to say, I really think not even so much the movie, but it's the festival that's really raised the awareness for people about Mothman, because when we even first moved to West Virginia in 2007 and talked about going to Point Pleasant, talked about Mothman, even a lot of people in West Virginia still did not know what Mothman was. They hadn't heard of it.
Yeah, it's, and I would say for some people, and it's weird, it's like for something that has such a following, just a passion behind it, it's amazing some of the people that have no clue. They're just like, Mothman.
Yeah.
You're like, no, I mean, this is one where, as far as I can remember, I don't remember there being any violent, people claiming like violent attacks. It was just, I kind of did one of the nicknames, the Harbinger of Doom.
Yes.
It was basically, it's that thing where if you see the Mothman, you're basically, a lot of people's instincts was, oh crap, what's coming?
Right.
There's something coming. It's like the bridge, just like you said, there's something, oh my God. Panic almost ensues when, and it could be just a town, I saw the Mothman, and all of a sudden everybody's like, oh my God, just like, what do we do? And it's one of those, as you get into it, you're like, this is really, I want to go to Point Pleasant. Not only just so I can go brave the TNT igloos and just try the thing out and see what happens there, but just to do that, go around, see the statue, and I'll bring that up for people that haven't seen that, the Mothman statue, because that's
the Mothman is pretty brave, because the very first sighting in 1966, it was witnessed by 5 people. It's not some backwood country guy. Oh, I thought I seen this. It actually presented itself where 5 people saw it. And I mean, I don't know the accounts of their stories, but 5 people seen it together. So that's like, hey, Joe, did you see that? Tonya, did you see that? So I mean, normally when you talk about other creatures and other cryptids, they're only one person only sees it in a pasture at night or something. So I mean, that's very credible to me that 5 people seen it.
And actually it was over 100. Over 100 people saw it, and the first sighting actually of a Mothman-like creature in the area was actually August, predating the more famous November sightings. And it was a couple called the Grays, and they were church-going folk, and they lived by 2 churches. Around 11 o'clock at night, I think his name was Walter, but Mr. Gray gets his feeling of foreboding. What's going on? The energy's off in my house. I feel like I'm being watched. 3 a.m., they see this winged humanoid that they think is a demon in the guise of an angel. That's August. October 7th in West Virginia, you start to get, or October of 67, you start to get UFO sightings. So UFOs were paired with Mothman almost the whole time, which is very interesting. Then, still preceding that major first sighting, you have November 2nd on Route 77, which we've traveled a lot. There's a gentleman named Woody Derenberger. And he's driving, and this thing that looks like a stovepipe on its side is hovering over the highway in West Virginia, 1966. And this guy gets out, his hair is slicked back, looks kind of Italian, dark complected, in a trench coat, and talks to him telepathically. And this is this infamous being, Indrid Cold. All of this is preceding the Mothman sighting, right? So then 2 days later, Woody's driving down on a year before my birthday to the day, or 2 years before my birthday, November 4th, and he gets this download about a planet called Lanulos in a star system called Ganymede. Ganymede does not exist in our universe, right?
Right, Elron.
So either he made it up, or it's a star system in a parallel universe. It's one or the other. But anyway, and Woody gets kind of shady. But so now November 14th, okay, we're getting warm. There's a guy named Merle Partridge. Now, if you do research on Merle, you may see his name is Newell, Newell. That was a mistake on his birth certificate that some famous researchers picked that up, okay?
Oh, wow.
And he has a weird thing. His dog is going crazy. His TV explodes in his house. He hears this high, like a pulse hum.
That's crazy.
It's like scales. And it gets higher and higher till the TV blows out. His dog disappears, never to be found again. And then, of course, the next day, November 15th, that's what Chris is talking about, the sighting with the mallets and the Scarberries in their 57 Chevy. This thing chases them at 100 miles an hour.
Miles an hour.
God, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Wonder was it flying or was it running?
It was flying, like gliding, like the wings were out and it's gliding, but 100 miles an hour, flapping its wings every once in a while. They were in a souped up 57 Chevy, and he was pretty much flooring it down Route 62, and they were scared. They were like high school kids. They were married young, two couples, and they went to the sheriff, and the sheriff said, I have no reason to doubt these kids. They're obviously scared out of their minds.
Yeah, they were obviously scared.
And then it was on. It's just, you can cite case after case. It came after one woman was holding her baby.
Yes.
A woman named Marcella Bennett. She dropped her baby in the driveway and fell on top of it. She was so scared by this thing.
And then Faye DeWitt and her brother saw it near the power plant,
right,
which is where it was sighted by the Scarberries.
Then that Thanksgiving, so that's 10 days later, this guy named Tom Urey sees this flying thing. He said it was a bird. He said it wasn't the Mothman. He said it was this giant bird flying by the Ohio River. So UFOs, Mothman.
Possible Thunderbird.
Possible Thunderbird, right?
And not just a couple of UFOs. I mean, there was a huge UFO flap during this time. In fact, it was pretty much a nightly occurrence, the way Keel describes it in the Mothman Prophecies, where people would gather in their cars. They would go park on farms, go up on hills and watch the skies, like pretty much nightly. That's how much they were observing these lights move up and down the Ohio River, all during this time.
Now, what would you say, like through your guys' time being there and just looking through, what do you think is the kind of almost like a basic factor that seems to make this area such a hot spot? Because you've got cryptids, you've got these UFOs, you have got so many different things that converge on this whole section of whether the Ohio Valley to West Virginia to Upper New York. I mean, we talked about the Pukwudgie. You know, it just, you've got all these things that seem to cluster in this area where it just seems to be a major thing. So what do you think is going on? I mean, is there?
I think a bunch of things, but you got all these rivers confluencing, right? So up by Pittsburgh, you got the three rivers. Right in Point Pleasant, where all this happened, you have the Little Kanawha and the Ohio coming together in a point that the Indians called Two-Indi-Wee, where the two rivers meet. So you have this very, very powerful confluence of these two waters. That generates a lot of energy. This was the place of coal mining and all of that kind of stuff. So I think you have a lot of evidence, quote unquote, of elementals, things that people might call jinn in another culture, that are tied to the land, which has been burrowed into, which has been extracted from. Now, what's interesting is the whole mid-Ohio Valley, Native Americans didn't really settle there, but they use it as a hunting ground. But if you look at their oldest descriptions, they say that there are monsters in the woods in that area. So it's always been an active, like, I don't know if there's a series of portals, but there almost certainly is one portal or more in that Point Pleasant area. No doubt.
And I was going to say, I mean, you were talking, Craig, about the mid-Ohio Valley, West Virginia, up into New York. I think a lot of that whole area, too, particularly West Virginia, we noticed, I think it has to do with some geological factors. A lot of places, particularly where there are these underground caverns, where there's large limestone deposits, underground waterways. I think all of these things also contribute to elevate paranormal activity.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to look at, because I was looking at because I know like you guys have, your famous one is the Loveland Frogman. From
Oh,
Ohio.
in Ohio,
Ohio. Yeah,
yeah.
it's one of those kind of like in the same area. And I'm trying to remember if there's one that's in the West Virginia area, because because what you're saying about the geological thing is, I'm starting to wonder, because that's always been a rumor, is that some of these creatures are subterranean.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because I'm trying to look. I don't know why I can't find the name of it, but it's one, because it's. As I'm looking through it, I'll come up with a name, but it's along that same line. You have all of these small statured creatures, Pukwudgie, Loveland Frogman. You've got all I want to say is you got those hillbillies that said that they saw those alien-like creatures that were attacking them.
Kentucky Goblin.
Kentucky Goblin, yes.
Right.
So here you've got that same type of thing where you've got these small statured creatures. Everybody's, the common theme to all of them, they're the same size.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
They're all talking about different features, but I'm wondering, like I said, if you guys, do you think, has there been anything in Point Pleasant or in that area of something of this size, like the small statured sightings? Because that's one thing I was looking at. I haven't seen any, but I know you guys have been around there a lot.
Not that I know of.
Not that
It's
we're
more
aware
like
of.
in that West Virginia area. It's more the big things, like the snallygaster they call it, or the white
The white
things.
things.
The white things are terrifying. The white things are these big, like, it sounds exactly what they're like, these big white ferocious beasts. But the weird thing is they psychically eviscerate you. So people say this thing attacked me and I felt it ripping into my guts and pulling my intestines out, and it was all a psychic nightmare, which is incredibly frightening to me. Incredibly frightening to me.
Well, it almost sounds at that point like some Black Ops military, things going, like it's one of those that the images are being sent, it's like a test, it's like aerosol spray or whatever, like an LSD type trip, that's where I was wondering if that's because, as I'm getting into this area, as we're doing the podcast, I've been especially dealing with some of the topics, and then, getting to know you guys, it's really branched off those things. And I'm starting to look into more of these things. And I'm wondering, is there military operations somewhere nearby?
Well, funny you should ask, but let me say, as far as the white things, the reports go back to the 1800s.
They go back pretty far.
But
so
I have a note right here. It's the weirdest thing, and nobody can tell me anything about it. So if anyone is listening and has info, I'm trying to find. There was an $8 million naval installation in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, in the 1960s.
What?
And nobody seems to be able to tell me. There's only like one photo. It's very nondescript of like a fence and like a nondescript building. Nobody seems to know. But as we were becoming part of the trusted circle, somebody said, hey, there was a naval base here. And I'm kind of a U.S. Navy enthusiast. My dad was a cryptographer. He's in the naval security group and all. And what a weird place. In the middle of nowhere, West Virginia, to put a naval installation.
Yeah, that's one of those things I'm going to have to definitely look, because the only thing, like, I just did a quick search, and the only thing that's coming up is the Sugar Grove Station, which is NSA, which is over there, which is kind of funny because that's what I've named my my account on here. If you look, it's not on screen, but it says NSA Handler.
Oh, wow.
The one that I'm using to run all the pictures and stuff, I have that one labeled as NSA Handler. No, but getting back to the Mothman, the whole point too, he's little side notes there. I just, I really wanted to get down. What do you guys think is probably, in your opinion, probably would be the quintessential most accurate description when you have to give somebody that's a Mothman? Because, obviously you look at the statue and they've got, the silver guy with the wings, but I don't know if I've ever heard a description where it's silver. It's usually dark gray, black, very nondescript. You don't really see a lot of features other than the glowing eyes and the fact that it's chasing you.
Yeah, so most of the people described, at least the accounts, again, that you read in the Mothman prophecies, these hypnotic, like you said, they notice these large, almost bicycle reflector like hypnotic eyes. And some people were just so literally entranced by the eyes that they didn't really notice much else. But, humanoid, bipedal, wings, and no neck really. They didn't really even discern in a lot of the accounts much of a head, because the eyes were such a prominent feature of the creature.
Right. So 10-foot wingspan seems to be the aggregate. It usually doesn't diverge much from this 10-foot, anywhere between 6 and 7 feet tall, which is interesting. That's in that oversized Bigfoot kind of territory, right? Pushing 7 feet. Slender, muscled body. So, of course, everybody touches the buns of steel on Bob Roach's sculpture. Craig often comments about our Mothy, we call him back there, who's got a six-pack.
Nice
Ripped Mothman, Yep.
I got this for my birthday this year, and this is pretty close to what they talk about.
That's awesome.
It's definitely stylized, but it's pretty close. Just scary. But then some people report having a total sense of calm as they look in the eyes.
Yeah.
And then Tonya mentioned bicycle reflectors. Merle Partridge said, I think this thing was mechanical. The thing that was out by my barn frightening my dog. He's like, they were not eyes. They were mechanical reflectors of some kind, and it was making a weird humming noise. Other people say that it squeals like a loud mouse. I can't even imagine an amplified mouse squeal coming out of a 7-foot tall, 10-foot wide wingspan, glowing red-eyed beast. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah, man. Yeah, especially in the 1960s. I mean, this is something, the heyday. I mean, I was, as you're doing, I mean, it must have been terrifying, especially like, Tonya, when you're talking about the story where the lady's holding her kid, she drops a kid. I mean, I don't imagine as a parent, your first instinct is to throw the kid on the ground and then like, I probably should cover him up.
Right,
I'm like,
right.
Yeah, that was what it's just, you hear these stories. I'm like, how freaky is that when you're just like, every man for themselves. Sorry, kid. You had a good run of it. And you're taking it, but dropping the kid.
Yeah, I think she was just so paralyzed
Just
with
shocked.
fear and shock that she just dropped the baby.
Yeah.
And I was, just like joking wise, I was like, the, Grays, how awesome would that have been if the guy's first name was Neil, middle initial A? For anybody that's, for the joke, gray alien. I mean,
Yeah.
I go, how awesome would that be? And then you'd just like, conspiracy would just go nuts, just like the guy's name's Alien. Yeah. But I just heard Grays, and I'm like, especially with UFOs, I'm like, God, you can't make this stuff up. This is awesome.
No.
Primary characters are great. The Grays.
So I think one of the weirdest stories is November 27th. So now we're talking, we're less than 2 weeks into this major rash of sightings now. And at the Mason County Golf Course, which is right outside New Haven, which we've been to a number of times in Mason County there, a woman named Connie Carpenter. Her aunt was Mary Heyer. Mary was a correspondent for the Athens Messenger and wrote so many of the articles. And she worked very closely with John Keel when he went down. But anyway, on this golf course, she sees a gray humanoid, 7 feet tall with hypnotic red eyes. Okay, here's where it gets really weird. Let me find this here so I get it right. February 22nd of 67. So we're talking 4 months later. A man in his mid-20s tries to abduct Connie in a 49 Buick in Point Pleasant. This guy tries to abduct her. She's seen this thing 4 months earlier. She gets home from school. She's a high school student. And there's a note under her door that says, I can get you yet. What is that about?
No.
That's crazy.
Yeah, what is that about?
She was really badly, as you can imagine, badly traumatized.
Yeah, she doesn't talk about it. She doesn't talk about it to this day because I'm designing an escape room where we're really going to honor the history. It's going to be fun. It's going to be crazy and amazing. The tech is going to be cool. We're doing some really amazing surprise things, right? But we were hoping to talk to her because we're going to recreate her aunt's office, Barry's office.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, but I mean, you see this thing, and then 4 months later, a guy tries to abduct you, fails to abduct you, but doesn't run off, leaves a note under your door in your house. I'm
gonna get you. Oh, that's crazy. Yeah, I don't know why. Good luck getting the story out of there because I don't know if it'd be one of those. That's one of those where you're just like, yeah, I'm not talking about this ever again.
Yeah, and rightfully so. And I'll tell you, so many of the witnesses, their lives fell apart. They suffered divorces. They suffered nervous breakdowns. They were shunned by the community. There was a local author who wrote a book and then just kind of disappeared. And the book did very well. And he said, I don't want any part of this. I'm not talking about it again. And I think a lot of it has to do with the Men in Black phenomenon.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. There was so much Men in Black activity going on. Just, people were seeing them walking down the street. Like, what was that Jeff was telling us about? I think it was his mother. And there was a photograph or something. And there were these Men in Black types in the photograph. And she was like, oh, yeah, those guys. We saw those guys all the time during the Mothman sighting. They were just, and we always commented on how weirdly they were dressed because, they were just so out of place.
And that was, I've talked about it a couple times too, but, with you guys mentioning like portals, as we go through this thing, I'm getting more and more to where I always like to use the word, to show fringe, so where, as a best way to describe it is you have two alternate realities that are right here. And I think what happens every now and then is just these weakenings occur, like you said, the portals, and you have this crossover where this Mothman, this could be a normal, just like you and me. I mean, this could be, the Mothman could be a type of, creature that exists in thing, but occasionally one of them will bleed over into ours. And all of a sudden you have this sighting. And it's flying around freaking out. It doesn't know what the heck these weird, hardly haired, non-winged, creatures that are walking around are. And it's, and I'm the same way with that because as we've done it with modern technology, as we see all these sightings, the thing that's always been the biggest thing for me is we are not finding habitat. Like even in Bigfoot, we're not finding, I mean, if, you see pictures of these Bigfoot, how come with all the stuff we're going on, you should see evidence of animal carcasses being drug into a cave, being drug up a tree. We're not finding these things, but we're finding is hair, footprints, sightings. All these people are saying the same thing. I've seen a Mothman. I've seen this winged creature, but yet nobody can find, without making it sound too funny, that nobody's found a nest. Nobody's found, a flying creature, this giant domain up in a tree. They're obviously this isn't for an eagle. And that's that way. It's just like you said with the big bird, like Thunderbird. What if these giant eagle creatures exist on this other plane, and occasionally they come in, and they're swinging around, and we're like, holy crap, look at that 20-foot wingspan creature. And nobody can find. Obviously, you should be able to find a nest,
right,
at some point. I mean, and that's I was, for you guys, I don't know if you think Mothman would fall under this category as well as maybe something that could be interdimensional that's showing up occasionally, and then you can get into the whole thing of like, is it a coincidence that it shows up at certain times, or was the bridge collapse due to the weakening of the veil and it caused something that, caused that?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, what you're talking about, and we've been sort of talking around so far, is the Garuda, right? This Garuda is the harbinger of doom, and it shows up in all kinds of cultures all over the world before these disasters. What's weird is from 13 months to the day from the Scarberry Mallet sighting, That's when the Silver Bridge collapsed. Silver Bridge collapse also, and it's not funny at all, but it's ironic. It's weird. The exact moment that Lyndon Johnson lit the Christmas tree on the White House lawn. The lights went on and the bridge went down. Coincidence, I'm sure.
But still,
really odd.
Yeah.
Really odd.
I mean, you couldn't have planned that, type thing. It's just, I mean, well, maybe you did.
You could have. I mean, maybe that was the light coming on.
That was
maybe
the signal.
Was a sign to blow. Yeah.
Yeah,
I couldn't find any other sightings since 2011. Has there been any other sightings of Mothman since 2011?
People have claimed so. What we saw in 2009, we don't believe was Mothman. We believe it was some kind of related creature. Now, the weird thing is when we saw it, to me, it looked like a guy, full-grown male, in a neoprene wetsuit being shot out of a cannon. And you saw it as?
I just saw a bipedal humanoid in a single bound, like leap across, blink in, blink out.
So, but when we did the past life regression last year to find that over 2 hours of missing time that we had, you did see something that was very Mothman.
I saw something very Mothman-like after. So in the regression, when we got back to the town, it was very much like the descriptions of the Mothman following us and then landing on top of the Low Hotel.
Right in the center of town. And kind of just watching us after our experience. So are Mothman like being, Chicago, when was that big flap? 2015, 2016?
2017, 18, I think.
And it's a real split camp about the Chicago Mothman sightings. Was it real? Was it staged? Was it doctored? Did somebody make up a rumor and it was a group mind wildfire? But that's out there. It's being debated. It's being investigated and written about. So this thing still is around. Now,
there were a few accounts around, I want to say 2010. I believe it was a mother and a daughter driving in the area of Point Pleasant. I don't remember specifics, so I apologize. But they saw something that sounded very Mothman-like as well.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like in this modern age too, I'm amazed that there hasn't been more hoaxes with drones. I mean, how easy would it be to sync up 3 drones, have one mounted like the head, and you could easily have one spread out with wing, and you can just have this thing just zipping across the sky. I mean, I don't want to put this out in the ether because, I don't want to be responsible for thousands of, horrible sightings now, but I'm amazed that this hasn't been staged yet, because this is something, like I said, you would see it out there and clearly people are going to see it and they're going to be, oh my God, I saw the Mothman.
Right. Well, go ahead.
No.
So talking about hoaxes, there are people who say to this day that the whole thing was a hoax, was dudes in the suit. And I had a very...
or sand cranes.
Or sand cranes.
Oh, yeah.
As that Ohio University professor said. But I had a really weird experience. It was in 2012, 2013. Teaching a civics course down at the state capitol in Charleston, West Virginia. And Tonya and Jolie are going around town because then we're going to Point Pleasant for the weekend. And I mentioned to the students, I say, oh, when I'm done, this is my last class of the day, and then I'm heading to Point Pleasant, like we investigate the Mothman. So their teacher lets all the kids file out of the room. And he was a pretty big guy. And he comes right up almost nose to nose with me. And he says, I was a kid in Point Pleasant at that time. And it's all BS. But he didn't say BS.
Yeah.
And he was adamant about it. So that's weird too. Not everybody's a huge fan of the festival, and not everybody's a huge fan of the museum and the statue and the people coming to town pursuing this thing. It's a very split camp,
which is weird. I come from where we moved from. It was Town in Oregon Sisters, and there was the people that absolutely love the tourist season, and then there's the other ones that absolutely hate it. But I'm like, do you guys look around what you have?
Mm-hmm.
This would all be gone.
Yep.
If there wasn't people flocking in here because of this love and this passion for this, I mean, if you really want to get to at this point, who cares if it was when you're here at this festival? Who cares? We're not here to debate whether it's real or fake. We're here because we absolutely am enamored with this cryptid. I love this. I'm here buying food. I'm staying here at I'm staying here at bed and breakfast, wherever you're staying. I'm buying the fuel from the gas station. I'm doing all this stuff. I go, this is supporting the town. So it always amazes me the people that'll come up to like you guys and say, I really wish none of this was here. It's like, you're crazy. You're crazy.
When we first went to Point Pleasant in 2009, this was before the festival had really grown. I mean, it was gaining in popularity at that time, but it hadn't exploded into what it is now. And there was nothing. I mean, it's really changed the face of that main street. Like you were saying, Craig, I mean, the main street is gorgeous now. All these new shops are going in, boutiques, businesses. It was a dead main street when we got there in 2009, essentially.
But I'll frame it this way. You have an Appalachian town, modest river town, working class people, simple lives, born, die there. Religious, God-fearing, and what we're talking about is something that looks like this, right? So I think that's what's unsettling. And then you have Cornstalk's curse. Like there's a Shawnee chief who, before he was killed by the whites at Fort Randolph, did he curse the town for 100 years? He didn't. It was in a play celebrating the centennial of the fort. Or the 150th anniversary. It wound up in a play in the 1800s, and it became lore. But you have a town that that doesn't even begin to. It's tens of thousands of people.
Even since then,
and that's I was bringing that picture to show people. It's just, you see, these are people that are bringing money into your town and supporting your town.
But what if somebody's ancestors kind of made up the Mothman to drive everybody out of the town so they could buy the land for dirt cheap? Because the professor, whoever got nose to nose with you, what if he knows that it was his ancestors or his mother, his grandfather, who wanted to do that so they could buy up all the land in Point Pleasant and just run everybody out of town? So now he feels really bad about it. That's why he's like, it's bullshit.
I wonder. I think it took so long for the town to revitalize after the Silver Bridge disaster in December 1967 that, I mean, even there now land is cheap.
Yeah, even still.
It's not. I mean, the town is thriving in its own way, but it's by no means a going concern. It's by nobody's getting rich there.
I think it was really more sort of like culturally, people who experienced it, they knew what they experienced. Right. There was no question in their mind. But for the people who hadn't experienced it, all they were seeing was all these strange people starting to come. They were making national news at the time. I don't think they wanted that kind of publicity. As Joey said, there wasn't even a bar in the town. So this is a very religious culture, society, community. They just didn't want that kind of recognition. And they really accused anyone who claimed to have seen the Mothman as either being, a drunk or being crazy.
Yeah, they're looking for attention.
Yeah, because now you got Cryptid Comic-Con rolling through town.
My question.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
My question to them would be like, how am I a drunk when we don't even have a bar in town?
That's a great question.
But I'm a drunk. We don't even have a bar that you see me at. Like, the liquor store's 15 minutes from my house.
Yeah, I mean, such a strange place for it to happen to. Mm-hmm. That sounds maybe wrong, but it's fascinated me. It's fascinated me for a decade. Like I said, I wrote a play about it, and now I'm incorporating it in books, and I'm designing an escape room because Mary Hyre said something to the effect of, what kind of long-term effect could a monster have on a small community? And I think that that's the key question. It's been totally profound.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, just seeing some of the things. I mean, it's just you've become. Having said all that, just tongue in cheek too. Is I could see some of the people, how you just, this is my little town. I liked it. Chris, brought up a good point. I'm upset that this has changed, but in the same time, it's like you have something now where you have a notoriety. I'm sure this last year, obviously was down. You still had some people roll through, but obviously you didn't have the same excitement. So hopefully this next year is a lot.
I think they said they were actually
you know what,
busier.
Craig? There was no festival, but the museum turned bigger numbers than they do during the festival.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's good.
I mean, people are completely fascinated with this thing. Was it a monster? Was it a harbinger of doom? Was it a demon? Was it
interdimensional?
Yeah, I mean, you don't typically have those conversations about other cryptid. You don't talk about them in that way. Like nobody says this, oh, is Bigfoot demonic? Is Bigfoot a harbinger of Bigfoot's got its own set of issues. Is it flesh and blood? Is it interdimensional? Is it, is it this? Is it that? But it's this perfect storm. And then you mix in UFO sightings and then these creepy MIBs showing up and doing totally off the wall things and witnesses being abducted. And
I think the Men in Black phenomenon that was going on is equally as strange as the Mothman.
Right on.
I mean, strange men showing up in people's homes in the middle of the night with crew cuts and plaid shirts. Just weird stuff.
You want to know what's really funny? I just, as you were saying that, I just came across this photo.
Oh yeah, see?
Yeah.
It just right as you said, it was just that was like the synchronicity that we always talk about. I literally just looked at it. I'm like, should I put that one up? I'm like, nah. And I just had it sitting off to the side. And then you started talking about it. I'm like, I go, strange guys showing up in the black sedans, showing up at somebody's house. And sure enough, here's somebody that drew fan art about that. I'm like, so that was pretty cool how I found that photo right just before you saying that. So that was pretty cool.
Right. And that's, that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
That is what it is. Like, what are these things? What did they want? Were they government agents? Probably some of them were. We've seen spectral ones, though, in the Webb Memorial Library. They acted robotic-like.
Very robotic.
And they attacked other ghosts and jammed the spirit box. But they weren't there. They weren't flesh and blood.
Mm-hmm. But they did emit, so many people when they report seeing Men in Black, they talk about this just very sort of foreboding feeling that the Men in Black emit. Almost like you make the hair on the back of your neck kind of stand up, signature frequency that they send out. And these spectral Men in Black had that same quality to their energy.
But not all of them. Right.
Not all of them.
In January 19th, 1967, Mary Hyre is sitting in her office for the Athens Messenger. And I actually Craig, I texted you about a synchronicity this morning that I had. I sat with a spirit box in front of her old office for about 20 minutes a couple months ago and got some interesting communications. But this guy comes in. Okay, this sounds exactly the opposite. 4'6" tall.
It's my favorite.
He's wearing thick Coke bottle glasses. He's got a bowl haircut. So already you're seeing this guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's 20 degrees out, but he's wearing a short sleeve shirt. He comes into the office and he has this slow, halting voice, which so many people say that. It's not quite human speech. It's a parody. It's a parody of human speech. Sometimes they stutter. And he picks up this ballpoint pen. And while he's talking to her, he's looking at it and he's playing with it and he's doing things with it like he's never seen a ballpoint pen before. And Mary says to him, you can keep that if you want. It's a ballpoint pen. And he laughs hysterically, maniacally, gleefully, and runs out of the office.
It's
wow.
so weird. But there are also accounts of men in black showing up at the homes of people who've had sightings, whether it be UFO, Mothman, and they offer them something like Jello, and they have no idea how to eat it. They try to drink it.
Right.
They
or they want sugar water.
Yeah, sugar water. They don't know how to use utensils, like basic things, and they ask for large quantities of sugar water.
Oh, you guys know Edgar, Alien Edgar, in the first MIB movie?
Yeah, just like, sugar.
Where he takes the sugar water.
Yeah,
Sugar water.
yeah, more.
That's based on the lore. Or they have these weird pills that they have to take. So they'll be interviewing the people or talking to them. And like, I need to take my pill. Can I have a glass of water?
People reported seeing what looked like maybe wires running down, inside the leg or, inside the trousers. Just weird things.
The shoes look brand new.
Shoes are always
and don't
new.
quite fit. The cars brand new, even though they're 20 years old. I mean, what the hell is going on?
Yeah. Well, I'm still thinking about that one, because that one you described, with the bowl haircut and the glasses. Because that's not your normal description at all.
No.
Yeah,
No.
I mean, it's because when you first were describing it, I was picturing Edna from The Incredibles. With the bowl haircut, the glasses and stuff. The whole time.
That's it.
That's it. So after the Silver Bridge collapse in December, she gets another visit. Okay, so I'm going to try to approximate this as I understand it. So he comes in and he says, What would you do if someone asked you to stop talking about this? Because I know John Keel, and John Keel says that he sees UFOs, but he's a liar. He's a liar. John Keel is not trustworthy, and he makes everything up. How weird is that?
That's
So there's so much more. There's so much more going on than just this one thing. There's all these things.
And what is the interrelationship, if there is one, of all of these things and these incidents of high strangeness with the Men in Black, with the UFO flap, with the Mothman? Is there some sort of relationship, with all of this at that time? Who knows?
Well, I'm wondering if you guys weren't on to something, what you said, like the portals, because then that would put it on government, the deep state, type, where these black, black label agencies, they've got this, they're paying attention. And so as something happens, boom, they're there. So just the black helicopter swoop in, just on any incident. And I'm wondering if there isn't something to this, because that's kind of what led me to that question earlier, where what is it about this area that seems to be such a hot spot for all these different things converging on this one location? And that's where the naval base, one of these episodes, we're going to get on DARPA. We need to have an episode about DARPA.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if something, we can get to pop culture here, Stranger Things, I wonder if something like that base you're talking about, some experiment was done and it kicked off something, opened something. And this has just been a recurring thing after that, because you said it, you don't have anything. And then all of a sudden the 1960s hit and boom, it just shoots off with activity. Did somebody trigger something, open something, do something in Point Pleasant area that has created this, a la Stranger Things?
It's a great question, because it wasn't just a Point Pleasant area during that time. In the 1960s, there was all kinds of, UFO flaps, incidents of high strange all over the country. I mean, it was kind of like stuff going on everywhere.
And then we moved into the abduction area. So 1950s, first reports of these flying saucers, maybe crashes in Roswell, maybe in Cape Girardeau, all these different places, all these different incidents. Eisenhower meeting, right? Valiant Thor, who I'm researching now, right? So this guy who comes from Venus and is an advisor to the president, and apparently meets with Nixon, and Nixon goes, "You really shook our guys up. We have no idea if you're for real or not, but we're paying attention to everything you say," right? Nixon, who's so, skeptical and distrustful, who then in the 1970s, I think, takes Jackie Gleason to the Homestead Air Force Base to show him aliens.
Yep.
So there is a progression, and Tanya's right. Point Pleasant sort of fits into what this progression was. Now, in my fiction, in my mirror universe of Point Pleasant, yeah, there's an Air Force base there, and there's all kinds of experimenting going on, because another theory is that Mothman was some kind of mutant that got out. I mean, they were manufacturing TNT. Mm-hmm. The TNT area is actually the McClintock Wildlife Refuge. It's a super fun site. It got highly contaminated.
Mm-hmm. So there have been, I've seen theories about that. Is it a mutation from all of these toxic chemicals that leaked into the area?
Yeah.
And that could be, and just happen to mutate in the form of, this got real life. We talked, I'm going to use that reference again. It's a real life Ninja Turtle.
We don't know, because it's all over the map. It's got all the parts and pieces of almost everything that, as Forteans or investigators of the paranormal, it's all the different parts and pieces we look at in one concentrated area.
Oh God, I'm sure there's so many different questions. Like I said, you get, I don't want to go too much because we're trying to focus on Mothman, and I keep wanting to like, ooh. I'm like ADD squirrel right now. I got to keep myself focused. It's just so. If anybody else has, if you guys have another question, get me, focused on here again, because I'm going to jump off on a whole nother tangent. But I'm hoping that we are able to get these festivals, up and running again, get this stuff going. Just one, local artists, local crafts, local, there's all these people that, that's their livelihood. Mm-hmm. I mean, I met somebody, just kind of a little random, thing last January, when we went to Comic-Con in New Orleans. We went down there, and this guy, he's called himself that coaster guy, and he makes coasters. And this, this one isn't one of his, but it's just your normal ceramic tile. And he'll come up with everything from Mario Brothers to like the Outlander TV series. He does all these different coasters. And so I could see guys like that, Mothman stuff, they got all that. And that's, they spend all this time crafting this stuff to sell. And then by no fault of theirs, they're told, we got nothing for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just like you said, the escape, the more that this stuff gets out and keeps growing, the more things like the production you're working on is going to be, that much bigger of a hit. Because, I mean, I don't know if Austin, Chris, did you guys ever see the Mothman Prophecies with Richard Gere?
Don't think that I have.
I would say that's probably the closest thing to mainstream that there really was on the Mothman. Joe, you might, correct me on if I'm wrong there, but that's everything else has been more of the documentary style.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And it took a real long time to get a script, to get it right. And it pulls a lot of different parts and pieces. If you start to look at the whole mosaic of the Mothman lore, you see where the writers drew from. Guys, I would highly recommend the movie because it's beautiful. It's got a killer soundtrack. It's filmed beautifully. Mark Pellington directed it. I'm not a huge Richard Gere fan, and he brings it big. Laura Linney's in it. Will Patton is in it.
It's excellent.
It's a tremendous movie, and it pulls a lot of different parts and pieces. So, Craig, the female police officer played by Laura Linney.
Yes.
That's actually Mary Hyre.
Oh, okay.
She had the dream with the packages floating in the river at Christmas time. That was
watch it again. Thing. It's been so long. I mean, that's
they do
the kid who gets the conjunctivitis in his eyes. That was a real experience that Keel had. He saw a UFO over the Ohio River. Next morning, he woke up with the conjunctivitis, and that's getting hit by radiation.
That shows how old I just feel right now. I just looked at 2002 is when that film came out. I was like, oh my God, it's 18 years now, almost 19 years. It's like, I mean, we've talked about this on a couple shows where Austin, I think, was 5 months old when me and my wife started dating.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just so you start getting these things where it just is like the age, and you're just like, oh my, it's really been that long ago. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the John Keel book. I mean, that came out the year I was born. Yeah, I mean, you're going through, and you're like, man. I mean, just the fact that something is built this long. I mean, because we're coming up on, so we're right at the 50. I think we're coming up on the 55th year anniversary since the first sighting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, I mean, this, I mean, you want to talk about something that everybody says a hoax. I mean, this has got a longevity of sightings and stuff, for it to be, go along, without somebody cracking and saying, oh yeah, it was me and Tommy. Yeah, we did it. We flew a kite behind the bike, scaring the people, just it's none of these stories are coming out. And you'd think by now, especially if there's a hoaxer, because I mean, what was that episode we talked about in Tampa Bay, with the penguin, the three-toed penguin? I mean, even that came out where the guy had the shoes, he's like, he finally came out with the shoes, and it came out, it's like, this is how, I mean, eventually these things will come out. Somebody will find the costume in the barn.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And nothing like that's happening.
No, guys in costumes don't go 100 miles an hour.
No.
They don't make a mother drop her infant child.
They
They just
perch
don't.
themselves on the top of telephone
Yeah, they don't.
poles.
Yeah, or perch themselves on the top of telephone poles or buildings.
I still don't buy the sandhill crane one. I showed a picture like that. I mean, you can't. You take a sandhill crane, you're not picturing some 10-foot wingspan. I mean,
No.
we live here in Florida. We see sandhill cranes all the time, and not a single time have any of us thought about spiking a baby because we just had a sandhill crane fly over our head.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, and doesn't it seem, guys, that like the more legitimate the occurrence, the more ridiculous the explanation?
Mm-hmm.
There seems to be, like, if it's a hoax or if it's a misunderstanding, you can close that gap pretty quickly and explain it away. But we just watched a great on history, History's Greatest Mysteries, like a 6-hour miniseries on Roswell, all this new information and all. And 1993, 95, 97, the Air Force comes out with this report, right? Because Stephen Schiff, who was a congressman in New Mexico, said, we need to open this up. We got to find out what's going on. Now, this is 40 years later. And they come out and first they go, oh, it was this Project Mogul, which was these high-tech listening balloons. Okay, whatever. And then a couple years later, they go, oh, yeah, the aliens that they saw, they were these wooden, like, test dummies.
Test dummies that didn't come out for...
Well, the test dummies didn't come out until the 1950s.
Yeah.
So this colonel, right, this bird colonel in the Air Force doing the conference says, what did he call it? Time compression?
Time compression.
So when we get older, we remember times differently.
No, that's convenient.
It makes no sense.
Yeah,
if you saw it in 1947, it wasn't 1952, and somehow you were confused.
Yeah, that's no. I've always been kind of like that one. It's just a little side note too, is that when you have something like the crash and they say it was a weather balloon, what is so top secret that you've got to threaten people because you have you have an aluminum foil basically, with balsa wood, balloon that you're showing these things. Why such secrecy?
Yeah.
Let people collect, why are you threatening people? You need to turn over what you have. Because if this was just a weather balloon, I'm sorry, the Russians aren't trying to steal our weather information. This is the height of the Cold War. We're not in something. I mean, this. So when you see these stories, there has to be something behind this thing. I mean, if the Men in Black sightings are shown, there's something to this because there's all these correlating sightings. It's like if a shadow government agency is showing up because something has occurred. I mean, I'm actually surprised with the sightings you guys have that something like this hasn't occurred for you guys.
Oh,
like a debrief, because I mean, if you guys have had this thing, you've had these interactions. I'm curious. It's like if you guys go through this stuff, if you ever just a fleeting like this type at some place, you go through, if you guys have ever seen that a black sedan, you've ever seen one of these things, but then, right now you wouldn't really think about it. But when you actually go back, like the regression, you'd be like, oh yeah, it was over there in that corner.
I'm working that into the escape room somehow.
Yeah.
But funny you should say that. No, I guess maybe because I dress up like a pirate and Che Guevara and stuff, so people maybe don't take me seriously. Or it could be they don't really have to come and debrief us because we've talked about it in the past 4 months. We've talked about it so much that it's out there. There's like it's out on the internet, guys, is where it is.
On the line.
It's out on the internet. So them coming to us, it's too late. We didn't tell
Bob Lazar.
Yeah.
You got out and you talked about it.
Yeah. So and it was odd because it was gray aliens and it was parallel dimensions and it was a weird sort of centrifugal spaceship and our car went transparent. I mean, it's all
manner of high strangeness.
It's all so crazy, and we did not remember any of it for 10 years, 11 years.
11 years.
Yeah, that's another topic I'd love to get on. It's like missing time, because that's one of the crazy ones. It's like people say, it's just like, it's just people forgetting stuff. And but there's several stories. Like, I'm sure you guys have encountered some of them, but there's many reports where they'll just kind of like, yeah, you guys are just, you're crazy. Yeah, but you've got to explain the fact that this device has stopped on this time, and the same thing connected to it. Time kept going.
Yeah,
and there's things that don't make sense. I think the best one was Contact, in that movie where it's like, to her, she went through this whole thing, but when in real life it just fell right through the rings. They're like, yeah, but what about all this? What about all this time that's on the recording that was recorded? And it's one of those, you can't explain it. Missing time is missing time. It's just, you do it. But I'm sorry, it's like, when I'm saying the abduction, this watch is dead at the exact time it occurred, but yet, over here, this kept running. It's like there's got to be some explanation for why I'm coming back, and people are like, you went out to get pizza. Yeah, that was 8 hours ago.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was skeptical when I underwent the regression and all the stuff came out, right? This creature that I encountered,
that's cool, so cool.
Yeah. A sketch artist did this based on the recording of my regression therapy session. The eyes are the only genuine thing about it, I think. The eyes are the only thing genuine. The rest was some kind of screen memory, some kind of weird thing, but this was the thing I saw. But I was so nervous when Tonya made the arrangement to also get regressed, because I was like, what if we had two completely different experiences? Then that means that I'm nuts, or somehow I conjured this as a storyteller. I'm super conscious of that, because I was always really skeptical of Whitley Strieber, right? Communion, but also The Howling, The Hunger. It's like, this guy makes a living making up stories, so he just made up one and decided to make it as I was always very skeptical of it, not knowing that the universe has a sense of humor, and now I'm in that exact position. Joey's a storyteller. He's been writing books and writing plays and telling stories his whole life, so it's just another story. But are storytellers more open to this stuff because our antennae are more tuned? I don't know.
I see what you did there.
Oh, what? Because I said
Mothman. Antennae.
Yeah.
I was like, I see what you. Oh, terrible dad jokes. Wow, boo.
Someone's blowing up my Facebook Messenger. We might be in trouble. I just keep seeing it. Message you. So.
Oh yeah, I know. It's just that's one of those things. It's just for everybody that's interested. I mean, this one. What I'm trying. I don't have it right here. I thought I had it written down. But what is the date for the festival?
Oh, it's always the third weekend in September.
I believe the third weekend in September, and there's a website people can go and check for updates. They're also on Facebook.
Yeah, Mothman Festival. Make sure you go to the right one because someone set up a dummy Mothman Festival page. It's probably been taken down now. But I think it's the third weekend in September. But on Facebook, if you go to Mothman Festival.
Mothmanfestival.com.
Yeah. There you go.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
Yep. So definitely they get some of the most world-renowned speakers that speak at the festival. I mean, we've been very lucky. We talked 2 years. I presented, 1 year you presented. It's where we met Rosemary Ellen Guiley, our mentor. We wouldn't be here talking to you right now if we hadn't seen that thing.
I wanted to talk about that. Craig, you were talking about, the area and, just all of the, the different factors. But one of the biggest factors, I think, is the positive experiences that people walk away with after having visited Point Pleasant. I mean, some of the best friends that we have in the world, we met at Point Pleasant, and so many people talk about that. It's a place that brings people together.
That's cool. That's one of those things. It's I'd like to see these stories where it's something that started out as traumatic, as somebody that's still to the point still recovering from the fact that you gotta I can still get you note pass into the door. It's
wow.
It can be turned into something of this where it's a lot more positive. People are coming away. It's a festivities. It's a festival. It's fun. It's not a thing where everybody's walking around all emo, all depressed, and it's really cool.
Yeah.
And I was noticing this to an even greater degree. I mean, I've always noticed it, but it's such an amazing town. They have this beautiful river walk with this amazing historic mural. It takes you through the whole history of the area. It's a beautiful mural. Takes you down along the Ohio River. It ends at Two-Undy Way Park, which is a lovely park. It's just an amazing little town. So even for folks who aren't interested maybe in Mothman, I'd still highly recommend it as a place to visit.
Yeah, good point. The Battle of Point Pleasant was there, which was at the very beginning of the Revolutionary War. And Mad Ann Bailey, who's a very interesting character. Daniel Boone spent time there. It's part of an area that George Washington surveyed in his 20s that was supposed to be called Vandalia. Ohio, West Virginia. It's fascinating. I'm reading some books now on Lord Dunmore's War. Very interesting stuff. Iroquois Confederacy, Shawnee, land disputes and all. So, it's just one of those. It's one of the top high strangeness places on Earth. And I feel like I've been attached to it forever, that area. It's one of the places.
Hey, let's try not to mess with my camera here. Woo. That was not a ghost. That was just me being a dork and smacking the cord on my. No, what am I saying? Oh my God, that was a ghost.
We can debunk that.
Well, no, I just want to make it seem more sensational. I failed. Oh man, you guys! I can't thank you enough for coming on. It's always been a pleasure.
It's always a good time.
Thank you.
Thank you. We feel the same.
It's one of those. I don't know if you guys know. Real quick, I don't know if you guys notice this, but you notice how fast time goes after the first half hour.
Yeah. Yep.
It seems like you get the first half hour just seems to go, and then you're like, all right, you're talking, and then all of a sudden I look up the clock. I'm like, my God, we're already over an hour. Like, geez, where does time go?
Yeah.
And so you guys, you've had a busy night. You had a show prior to ours, and then you came on here. I want to talk about pump you guys up a little bit. On Facebook, it's Into the Outer Realms. We have their logo behind us here, one of their newer ones that they have up. It's kind of that cool design. I'm not sure we can bring that up just by itself or not without dropping all of us off.
1 second.
But then we have just their books. Your latest one that's just out. Yep, there it is. Into the Outer Realms. I really like that one with the objection. That was really cool. You guys have, I'm going to share it here so people can see that are, as we're talking about it here, the Roommates from Beyond, that just came out. It seems like you guys have been having pretty good results, and reviews off that book so far.
Yes.
What I've been hearing.
Yeah, it's been very well received, which we're excited about. It's a practical handbook for people to use to catch these things early. Because if it's already television worthy, it's too late. It's gone too far. So get it when it's first manifesting so that you can really deal with it. We launched our Paranormal Bill of Rights as part of the book. That's been very well received. So, thank you for the plug.
Yeah, watch out for the hallway. You've also got a line for, especially I'm not even sure what the term is for it, but it's basically the group that really are into pirate life. You've got your book series that's around that same genre. Is apologize, the name of failing me here. It's something Quill.
The name of the book series, Cannon and the Quill.
Cannon and the Quill. I see. I got
right.
You've got that whole what is that called? It's because you got Renaissance Fair for the people that are into
they call them pirate festivals, actually.
Pirate festivals. Okay, yeah, I didn't know if there was like a fancy name for it, because you've got those. But yeah, they've got you guys have all sorts of different things. Tonya, you have your own little site thing for people that want to contact you. They can get in touch with you for a reading, for you to actually talk, actually sit down and think. So that's something. If you contact them, what's the best place to get for you for that?
Either through the Facebook Into the Outer Realms page, that's fine. You can message me there, or you can find my Tonya Madia Medium page, also on Facebook.
And you're doing past life regressions now too, right?
I do spiritual coaching. I help people develop their intuitive abilities, their psychic abilities. I do past life regression, hypnosis, readings.
Have you guys finished the book yet on how to kill your desire for free time?
Yeah. But really, we're having so much fun though.
I know. It's what I always talk about. This. It's like these are people that absolutely cannot stand free time. They must be doing something at all times. It just for that. We haven't talked to you for a little while, so publicly and everything. I want to wish you a happy anniversary. You guys look like you had a really good time.
Awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, that trip up to Niagara Falls and had some paranormal experiences on top of everything else. Yeah, we're trying to stay young, and we got a house full of 20-year-olds now staying with us, so they keep us young.
Well, we need to let you get back to them. It's
okay.
But thank you guys again. Appreciate it. Is there anything, Joey, you would like to nod that might be going on at the end of this month?
Oh, I would. So Craig and I have conspired on a project that we call, right now we're just calling it the RTC. And it's actually back behind us now, center stage. People can take a screenshot or something and blow it up, see what it's about. But we're going to unveil it. It's a group of about 6 or 7 of us who are looking at fringe theories. That's what I like to call them, fringe theories, because the C word is too easily dismissed. So they're fringe theories. And Craig, you want to tell them what our debut topic is on the 28th?
Yeah, we'll be talking about the Denver International Airport and all the strange, weird, things that are going around it. It's definitely one. We did an episode on it a while ago, and this will be kind of a cool one because I'm coming at it with basically that part, but also be bouncing it off people that have got same other ideas. So we'll be doing that, and we'll talking about that. So I just give a little plug for that other project for you guys.
Right on, cool. January 28th, and we even have secret members, anonymous members with code names.
Yep,
so we're having fun, and it should be a cool thing,
really just joking around. So
yeah.
Oh, that's just how funny. In Las Vegas, we have a bus transit named RTC.
Oh, okay,
awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, that's. Oh my God, that's crazy.
Yeah,
all right.
We're going to be taking the bus somewhere. We'll be out where the buses don't run. That's what they say.
I know. Does that bus go to Groom Lake?
Oh.
All right. Well, everybody,
All right, peace, guys. Thank you so much,
Thank
Austin.
you,
Chris,
guys.
thank you.
Great to see you. Great to hang out
Yeah.
with you again.
Oh, always.
And
Well, as I said, we'll
Happy
definitely.
New Year.
Happy New
Let's
Year.
hope
do this
so.
again. Yes.
Okay, guys.
All
Good
right.
night.
Take care.
Night. All right, everybody. Like I said, go to Enter the Outer Realms on Facebook. Show them they've got shows every week on Thursdays. Nanny Cakes, Nancy Burke, 407-923-2898.
98.
She will give you 15% off your cake order here in the Central Florida area by just mentioning that you know us crazies. threebeardspodcast.com. Go check that out. Patreon.com/threebeardspodcast. Go become one with us Beardos. Help support us. We would absolutely appreciate it. Then all social medias, I don't really know what's the best one to all of them. Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. Obviously, you're here. If you could go there, any podcast platform, we are there. Down, you can send, RSS. We've got that link up there, but you can also just search us up, Three Beards Podcast, and you'll pop it in. By downloading and listening to it, you really help us out that way too. So, everybody, thanks for watching. Have a great night. Happy New Year to everybody, and we will talk to you later. Good night.